right, it is just a little over the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and get the call started. This is Dee Dee Shaw, Emerald Executive, and normally I'm in Georgia, but we are vacationing in Orlando, so I am hailing you from the sunny state of Florida in Orlando, and just want to mention that I had the opportunity to say no, to not take this call this morning. But I've heard this enough times, and I want you to hear what I'm saying, and hopefully you will hear it enough times that it sinks in. Successful people do what others won't. And ask yourself this question: if you had the opportunity to host a Go Diamond Focus call, and you were on vacation, what would you have? Ponder that for a second. Think about it. Because successful people will do what other people want. That's what makes the difference. People ask me all the time, how do you do it? For those of you who don't know me, Dee Dee Shaw, Mama 14, we have now, we just had one get married, so there's only 9 still at home, but we homeschool, and we have a very, very busy life. People tell me I don't have time. I don't believe it. It's not about whether you have time, it's whether you make time. And what we're going to talk about a little bit this morning, David and I discussed it, what would I talk about this morning, and because we have convention coming up, and because there's so many people out there that are sort of wavering on, I can't afford it, or I might not be able to make the time, or I just can't take the time off work, I wanted to share a story with you. We're going to talk a little bit about promoting events. So you heard several people announce different events, Super Saturdays, Race to Summit events. We're going to talk a little bit about using events to build your business. But I want to tell you a story. I actually posted part of the story on David's Facebook page over the weekend. But there was a time in my life where I had been involved in the industry for a while, moderately successful, not nearly as successful as I wanted to be, but had some success. And was to the point where I was weary. I had not registered for an upcoming national event. There were some things that had made it impossible for me to be able to register when the event was first announced, and it was time for the event. I was not interested in going. I was just weary, not really committed. And I had a conversation with somebody else in the business, not even in my upline, somebody crossline, and they asked me was I going to be there, and my reply was no, and I gave my excuses. And what he told me really stuck with me. He said, if you want to be successful, you don't have a choice. So I started looking at our finances, looking at the options. Could I go? Could I make it happen? But the event, the price had gone up to the point where it was, twice as much as the original early bird price. Didn't have a place to stay. All the hotels were sold out. But I took a leap of faith. I booked my airline ticket. I had no ticket to convention, had no place to stay. I showed up at the convention with my luggage in hand, without a ticket and no place to stay. I can elaborate and go into all the events that took place, and I can tell you this. Because I took that leap of faith, I was provided a room. I shared a room with somebody. They wouldn't even let me pay for it. So I shared a room with somebody at no cost. There was somebody there who had an event registration that they couldn't use. They had sent it with somebody else. I paid half the early bird price for the event registration. I was able to attend, and that was such a faith-building experience for me. I had been to other national events. I knew what they were like. It wasn't that there was a keynote speaker nearly as powerful as Les Brown, nearly as powerful as John Maxwell. There was nothing specific about the event that stands out in my mind. The specific thing that stands out in my mind was I made the commitment, I took the leap of faith, and everything fell into place. I can remember last year, Lorena James drove to Utah all the way from Montana. And she too was the last minute. She ended up staying in the room with me. So if you've not registered, if you have team members who have not registered, just tell them to do whatever it takes to get there. This will change the course of events for them. This will change the course of their business. They will have the opportunity to hear keynote speakers that people will pay far more to listen to than we're paying for our registration. You'll have that opportunity. You'll have the opportunity to learn about new products, get to network with people. It's just an amazing time to go to convention and to be surrounded by all the positive energy of other Zeta distributors. But that was a story that I promised to tell, so I wanted to get started with that, not get all involved and forget to tell that story. The other thing that really excites me, I know there's still lots of people beeping in, but the thing that really excites me when I get on these Go Diamond focus calls is to hear all those voices out in California. West Coast time. For those of us on the East Coast, 9 o'clock, we could be slugs and still be able to plug into this call. But out there on the West Coast, they're up bright and early, 6 a.m., getting on this call. Commitment means you plug in. This is a business where you can't do it by yourself. It's a business where you work together with your team. It's a business where you have to always stay plugged in to charge your batteries. When you're out in the world and you're talking to people, even life will drain your batteries. So you want to stay plugged in, getting on this Go Diamond focus calls, listening to the calls at night. I've had folks get involved and they say, oh, I've already heard that before. I don't need to get on those calls. I've heard that before. That is so far from the truth. It's not what we hear. It's what we repeatedly hear that becomes a part of us, that feeds us, that keeps us going when there's no other energy left inside us. It's the energy that we derive from others that keeps us going. So staying plugged in is important. The other thing that I really want to emphasize this morning is using the system. And I have to tell you, I have been involved for a long time before I really understood how important the system was. We hear about three-way calls all the time. We're encouraged, use three-way calls to validate, use three-way calls for power lines, like your team is. We hear that, but are we actually committed to doing it? If you knew that it was the most important key to success in your business, it's not recruiting, it's not events. The very most important thing that you need to understand is how to use the system to build your business. There are people who build their business using phone calls alone. They don't have PDRs. That's not the tool they use. That's not how they present. All you have to do is have some tool to use as a presentation or face-to-face meetings. That's absolutely. Can you build your business without them? Yes. Can you build your business without validation? No. Can you build your business without the power line calls? No. You think back, those of you that have some folks on your team, those of you that are new, ask somebody upline from them. Think back on the people that you brought into the business that you thought were really going to do something. The ones that plug in and the ones that you use three-way calls with are the ones that stick. If you don't get folks plugged in, if they don't understand that they have a team to support them, then they're not going to stick. It just doesn't work that way. You have to do the three-way calls. So we all know what the system is. We are going to peek, we're going to pass, we're going to plug. Those are your alliterations so you can remember. You can turn that around and actually understand what those are. You are going to invite. That is your job. Invitation. That's all you need to do. People ask me how I do this business because I never have dedicated time that I set aside where I'm doing nothing else. I'm going to invite somebody. It takes me 2 minutes. I've built a relationship with them. I'm not just going to walk up to somebody on the street and say, hey, take a look at this. But it takes you 2 minutes to say, hey, are you interested? Are you open? If I did this, would you do that? You give them a tool. That's a presentation. That's not your time, that's their time. Get them on a call. If you have to listen to the call, it's a good idea, but you don't have to. If you already know the information, you're getting them on a Wednesday night call, you're getting them on one of the business presentation calls. That's their time that's dedicated. And you can have your phone dialed in on speaker while you're doing whatever else you need to do, so it's not dedicated time. You can then, the most important thing when you follow up with them is for you not to answer their questions. The most important thing for you to do is you to get somebody else on the line. Why? The Bible tells us. Even the Bible tells us. It's in it takes 2 witnesses. When 2 or 3 agree, that is what establishes the truth. So you may be able to talk to them and answer their questions, but that's not what you need to do. You want somebody else to answer their questions. Another reason you want to do that is because you want them to see it simple. How many times have you tried to get somebody to go ahead and join your business, and their response was, well, I don't understand it all yet. I really want to get my head around it all. I still have all these questions I want answered. Because they think they have to answer questions. If you use the system and you say, you know what, I've not been in the business that long, I want to connect you with somebody who's been in the business longer than me that could answer your questions, or you know what, that's really not my forte, I'm really not all that interested in how the product works, or I haven't ever really understood the comp plan, I just like getting paid, but I'll get you on the phone with somebody that can answer those questions. Not only does that establish the truth by having more than one person there to give you those answers, but it also helps them to understand they don't have to know it all to do this business. And if we will plant the seeds and anchor the thoughts as we connect people, then it's going to be even stronger. Every time I do a power line call, every time I do a validation call, I'll say, this is the reason this business is so simple. I don't have to have the answers. I'm going to let you talk to somebody who does. Or this is the reason this business is so simple and takes so little time, because all I have to do is connect you to somebody else. And I'm going to go take care of the laundry while you talk. Just yell at me if you need me. What does that do? It helps them to see that they don't have to be taking a lot of time out of their day to be able to connect. I'm on my lunch break, I'm in the middle of a meeting, but I wanted to be sure you got connected and get your questions answered here. Talk to Doug. I'm going to go ahead and do what I'm doing. Just yell at me if you need me. So it can be a 30-minute conversation, but I'm not involved. I'm doing what I need to do, and that's how you build this business without dedicated time. But time is the number one complaint you'll hear from people. I don't have time. I just don't have time to do this business. So if you will use the system, you'll help people see that time is not the issue. They can build this business without dedicating a lot of time. And then the reason for the power line calls. How powerful is it? Think back when you first got involved. Hopefully your sponsor did this for you. Hopefully your sponsor connected you to your upline. How far up do you go? As far up as is appropriate. How powerful is it for you to be able to connect your new guy who just got involved and have your upline triple diamond or upline diamond elite say, this is one of the key leaders on my teams, and because you're in his organization or her organization, are also going to be a part of the team that I'm working with, so I'm going to give you my personal contact information. I promise you, if they've been in other businesses, especially if they've done this before, this is going to be new to them. This is going to be something that's powerful for them to know that they have in their tool chest somebody that they can connect with their prospect that's already been successful, that's already making six figures. That's going to be a tool that they will not have had access to before. And that's one of the most powerful things that I have found in this particular business. Visa is different. Visa is different because we all work together as a team. You're going to get the support that you need to grow your business. And one last thing I want to talk about is because we are coming up to convention, that was kind of how I started. I shared my story about how important it is to get to convention. And sometimes it's just seeing how when you take a step of faith, everything falls into place that makes the difference. The other thing that I want to talk about is using events to build your business. We talked about using a presentation, using a tool. We talked about using a phone calls, which are phenomenal. It's a great way to build your business long distance. But how much more powerful if you can get them in front of the leaders of the company, if you can get them in front of professors, if you can get them in front of Jerem and Russ Bianchi, Dr. Plant, if you can get them face-to-face with some of the leaders of the company, it's much more powerful. Go to these events. If you haven't been, go now. Make a list of all the different cities where Race to Summit is scheduled to be. Don't wait until the last minute. Go do it now so you can think, who do I know in Chicago? Who do I know in New Jersey? Who do I know in Maryland? Who do I know in Virginia? Reach out to them. Use that as an opportunity to revisit a prospect that you might have talked to a year ago, or to reach out to some folks that you know there that you haven't talked to about Zeta yet. Use that as your intro. Hey, I saw we've got this meeting coming up in Maryland and we haven't talked for a while. I know it's been a while, but when I realized how close this was to where you were, I knew I needed to reach out to you because this opportunity is one that you won't have again for a long time. I want to get you face to face with the information. So that's a way to reach out to folks across the country and grow your business all across the country. I'm going to open up the line, see if there's anybody that has any particular announcements. I know at the beginning there were announcements about Zeta events and Race to Summit events that are coming up on the East Coast, and that's why I brought those up again. There's one in Chicago, but I'm going to open up the line, see if anybody else has any other events they want to announce. And if you are not speaking, if you could be sure you start with your phone so we can hear, that's always a challenge when a lot of folks.
That should resolve the issue if we can either get them open or provide them to
We have several people in the background speaking. If you have not used star 6 to mute your phone, please do that now. And then if you would like to announce an event coming up in your area.
I just want to let everybody know it's a little early, but it's never too early. September 19th, Livermore, California, get the county events on there. So
Save that event out in California is on these events, right?
Yes, it is on the 19th. It's a Thursday, 7 p.m. on the event calendar.
Awesome. I would recommend that everybody schedule into their own calendar to check out these events at least once a week because there's always new events being added. That's a great way for you to use that as a memory jogger to invite folks to hear the information. Hey, this is Debbie calling at Las Vegas. We have Race to the Summit coming here to Las Vegas on the 18th. What's that date, Debbie? 18th of September. It will be Wednesday the 18th, and it's going to be at the Green Valley Ranch Hotel Casino in the fall. We're really excited about it. I'll be more than happy to do that. It is on the event schedule. That's awesome. So we have events going on simultaneously, Race the Summit, some on the East Coast, some on the West Coast. Anybody else?
Hey, GD, this is Marco. Let everybody know about the Race the Summit 6 on September 11th in Columbia, Maryland.
Yes, thank you, Mark. We announced those at the beginning, and I have posted those on Facebook as well. There's 3 events, one right after the other: Maryland, New Jersey, and Virginia on the East Coast. So I would strongly encourage you to use these events. They're much more powerful than a PBR, even a Super Saturday, to get them in front of corporate leaders to hear about the new products. There's some great special deals that you can only get at these events, extra product. People can come into the business and start their business with up to $400 worth of extra free product. So be sure that you tap into these Race the Summit events.
This Saturday, September 14th, is in Greensboro, North Carolina. That is also on djevents.com.
Now, is that a Race the Summit or is that a Super Saturday?
I apologize, that is Race the Summit.
Awesome. But I know I have a great team growing up there in the North Carolina area that will be at that event.
Alright, sounds great.
Okay, is anybody else? If there are no more announcements, then we will close out the call. Everybody have a terrific week. If you are committed, I'll see your name on that registration for convention. I look forward to meeting many people there that I've not met yet and get to visit with those that I've developed great friendships with. Y'all have a great week.
Thank you, Judy. David, I'll see you at the convention. Have a blessed day.
Look forward to it, Dave.
Thanks, Judy. Great call. Ron Clayton, Family Chicago. I'll see you there.
Thank you, Dee and Grant Schultz, American Canyon, all packed and ready to go. Awesome. Great call, Dee Elizabeth Alexander, San Francisco Bay Area, conventions. Thanks, Dee. Thank you, Maggie, New Philly, Ohio. Great to see your voice. Thanks. Yes.
I get back in Sacramento, California.
Thanks so much, Debbie Callahan, Las Vegas. Have a great day. Good convention. Thank you so much.
Las Vegas convention.
Thanks, Dee.
Right. I'll have to do it.
Eric Clary, that was a great call. This is Sarah Farmer of Washington, Virginia, and I will see you at convention. Yes, ma'am. Thanks, Dee Dee. Kim Fisher, Father, for a great reminder. Thanks, Dee Dee. Hazel Terry of Atlanta, Georgia. Great call. You want to call Dee Dee, Hazel? Great call, Dee Dee. Thank you. Sorry, New Jersey. See you in Utah. All right. Y'all have a great day.